Hello and welcome to the Be Formless Flow Driven CEO podcast, where we are reshaping life, leadership and business from the inside out. And today I'm welcoming from, I'm going to say sunny London, Lara Solomon. Welcome to the show, Lara.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Thank you. And look at us. We're just matchy. We weren't even, you've got I actually like your green better than my green, Lara. Not that it's a competition, but I just put this on and then I'm like, we're matching. And like, you were like, do I need to change? I'm like, absolutely not. I always think that there's synergies when we have colours and brightness to the show. So thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Yeah. And you said you're having quite a warm summer. I've heard that a bit. Like, how do you go without like aircon? Because it's not like you guys have aircon on or maybe you do. Like, I hear a lot of people in London, when it gets to like that certain temperature, it's like, yeah, you just have to ride the wave of the heat.
I mean, it's not Australia hot. It's like, since I've been here, it's been a high of 30, so it's not crazy hot.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's really just that staying inside thing. The worst thing is when you're on the bus or the tube and there's no aircon, that's really hot and sweaty.
Yeah, totally. That's right, because you lived in Australia as well, didn't you? How long were you in Australia for?
About 20 years. I lived in Sydney.
And how long have you been back in the UK now?
Well, on and off. I left Sydney in 2022, so it's been about 4 years, but I've been between the UK and the US.
Yeah, amazing. Well, let's get on into it. I met you a few weeks ago, and you and I both have a shared personal story that it runs raw and deep, and what you're doing and the impact you're making is incredible. So, without further ado, actually, I should say a big hi and hello to all the listeners. So, hello everybody. Welcome to the show. Please don't forget to share, like, comment. I'm sure there's a lot of people that will find a lot out of this conversation that I'm going to have with Lara today. And we do appreciate any feedback, comments, or anything that you feel like was, really resonated with you as a takeaway. So please do share. Lara, you are the founder and CEO of Hoopsy, and it's a company behind the world's first paper-based pregnancy test. Have you got the product in front of you? Do you want to pull it up for us, please? So I'll just say that again. Sorry, you go.
So it's a midstream test. So you wee on this end and then you get your results here. This one, I didn't wee on it. I put it under the tap. But you get one line if you're not pregnant, the tap's not pregnant, and 2 lines if you're pregnant. So yeah. And then you can write on here. You can write the date or the time or whatever you want to on there. So yeah, it's very thin. It's cardboard, as you can hear. So it won't disintegrate when you wee on it, because that's one of the questions we get asked a lot.
Really? Oh, amazing. And I'm going to say that again. Hoopsy is the company behind the world's first paper-based pregnancy test. Congratulations. And you're on a mission to eliminate plastic from diagnostic testing and reshape a $63 billion global industry. It's quite incredible, isn't it? Lara, I'm just making sure your Wi-Fi is dropping. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you okay. Yeah, I've just been closing a few things. To try and get it to improve.
Mine does that sometimes.
Okay, I've closed everything I can close now, so hopefully it's better.
Amazing. I'm going to get you just to show the pregnancy test again and just explain it again, just in case.
Okay, so it's a midstream test. So you wee on this end, then you get your results here. I put this one under the tap. 1 line is not pregnant, 2 lines is pregnant. It's made of cardboard, so when you wee on it, it doesn't disintegrate. And then you can write here the date or the time of when you took the test. So if you are doing lots of tests, you can compare your lines.
Amazing. Incredible. Oh, I can't wait to get into this story. An important inflection point emerged for you through your own IVF journey while navigating the emotional realities of trying to become a single mother, and I know that too well myself. You became acutely aware of the enormous amount of plastic generated by home pregnancy tests. That experience transformed a deeply personal challenge into a global mission to create more sustainable diagnostic solutions for women and the planet. And today, Lara, as leading Hoopsy, you're leading it beyond pregnancy testing. You're developing sustainable diagnostic technologies designed to reduce plastic waste across healthcare while challenging the way an entire industry thinks about product design and environmental impact. And at the heart and soul of your work is a belief that innovation should improve people's lives without compromising the health of our planet, proving that meaningful change often begins with one deeply personal experience. Tell us a bit about your journey, because it is deeply personal and it's taken me quite some time to be able to talk about the journey of IVF.
Yeah, so I went through IVF in 2021. I first first did egg harvesting. At the time I was 45. I got 3 eggs. One of them was mature and it fertilized, but it only made it to day 3. And I found out through doing that one of my ovaries was perimenopausal, so we only got eggs from one side. So then I decided that I was going to use a donor embryo. So I flew to Spain twice from Australia, and it was during COVID, and did 2 donor embryo transfers. The second one did take and I got pregnant, but then it miscarried. And going through all this, I joined lots of online groups of women that were trying to conceive for support and help and advice and everything. And I kept seeing people posting up pictures of their tests, and sometimes it'd be 10 or 15 tests all in one photo. And before I did IVF, I had no idea women use that many tests each time they're checking. But I get it, because you just want to know, as soon as you know, because obviously when you conceive naturally, you don't know exactly when you've conceived, but with IVF, you know to the minute. And so you can start testing a lot earlier, and you just keep testing till you get the result, because we know that your HCG levels double every 48 to 72 hours. After my transfer didn't work, I was back in Australia and I was talking to a friend, and I just couldn't believe this plastic, and I couldn't get this image out of my head. And so I decided that the big companies like Clear Blue and First Response weren't going to do anything, because if they were, they would have already done it. It's not that complicated. So I decided that I'd do it. I was like, how hard can it be? It's actually quite hard.
Famous first words, right? Like, how hard can it be? Because what is your background in sustainability or anything from an environmental perspective?
No.
Or was it just going through your own lived experience that you were like, something has to change here?
Yeah, I mean, I've always been into sustainability, but I wouldn't say I was an expert. I've always been someone that tries to use natural things like natural makeup and natural products on myself. And I know that how much better that is for me as a person, and recycling and that kind of thing. I've not got a background in sustainability or healthcare, or I'm not a chemist. I'm not a doctor. Previous to starting Hoopsy, I had a number of different startups, all product based and all in completely different industries. So I kind of knew the process of getting product to market, but medical products are quite different because of the regulatory things around it that the hoops you have to jump through for that.
Wow. And is that why you called it Hoopsy as well? Like, just the hoop, like, what's the Hoopsy? Is that from the hoops you have to jump through?
Partly, when I was thinking of a name, I didn't want anything that was too babyish, because I knew that eventually we'd go out of pregnancy tests. And also, obviously, when you take a pregnancy test, you can be hoping for not pregnant or pregnant. So you don't want something that's going to give people, people don't want to ask for it in a shop or use it. And so the word hoop is actually a Dutch word meaning hope. And that's one of the things when you take a test, I think you're really hoping for one thing or another. And then when you write the word hoop but add the S, the hoops is exactly that. The hoops you're jumping through on that fertility journey. And then the Y was just to round it off. But it's very challenging to think of a name for a business that's you can get the domain for, you can get the social handles, blah, blah, blah. So I had to get a bit inventive. I went through a lot of names.
I could imagine. It's a great name, by the way. And it's funny how it comes together, isn't it? When you in a way that just actually feels so natural in terms of just that. Tell me a little bit about, you've decided you're sitting with a girlfriend in Sydney and you're talking about the amount of plastic you're seeing. You're also going through the no doubt grief of what IVF is, and when it results in not what you were hoping for, so to speak, and I know that very well myself. I also know that your hormones are running wild, and you pumped so much medication and everything through your system, and it takes quite a while, and you would know way better than me from no doubt from how long it takes to be removed from your body. So you've got all these emotional feelings going on, and then you're also going, I'm going to start a business. Like, how did you navigate your way through that? And like, where did you know where even to start with something?
Well, there was a lot of crying. I will say that. I started by, I think I've already so my test currently is sourced in China, so it's made in China. So I've sourced lots of products from China before, so I know that process. So that wasn't that hard, except it was difficult to find someone who wanted to work with me, because I contacted about 100 different manufacturers across the world, and most people were like, A, never heard of you. B, I don't know, what do you want? And C, we don't actually want to make any effort. We just want to sell you what we've already got. We don't want to change what we've got. And then I think, to be honest, a lot of this was a distraction from the emotional stuff. It was only when I actually sat down to do things like put the website together, writing about my journey. In the first blog post I wrote about my journey, it was like literally crying while I was writing. And all of that was just really hard. And then the more and more I talked about it, the easier it got. I mean, I did a lot of PR and that kind of thing. And speaking to journalists as well was really upsetting. But I guess it's just something you keep doing. It doesn't go away. It just becomes easier. And even I remember, I started Hoopsy officially. The company started in December 21. And then must have been, May 2020, my brother told me that he was pregnant with his daughter, who's called Lara, named after me.
Oh, gorgeous.
Which was really lovely, but I was so upset. I just got off the phone. I was just so upset because that was exactly what I wanted, wasn't it? Mm-hmm. And it's just so hard. And then he had another daughter 3 years later, and I thought, oh, I'm over it now. This won't upset me. But I got really upset again. And it's really hard. It's like, I mean, you know, B, it's just, you go through this, you think you kind of process this stuff, and it just pops up and surprises you.
Yeah, it comes up in waves, doesn't it? Like I was saying to you earlier, it popped up for me this week, and it was just like this wave, and it just, I don't know about you, I just get confused around why. And you go like, I just thought that it would happen, and it didn't happen. And then you're questioning, like, funnily enough, Hoopsy, why kind of relate to that, because you ask why a lot of the time, and you think to yourself, why not? Like, what? And it's one of those things that you learn to live with it. And when people say to you, like, aren't you lucky? Aren't you glad you didn't have children? Look at this or look at that. And you're like, oh gosh, if only you knew. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, yeah.
My sister did this to me a lot. At one point, she was complaining about all the things she has to do with the children, with her husband, with the house, blah, blah, blah. And I just turned to her and said, do you not think I want those things? Do you really, you're complaining about these things you know that I've tried for, you know I want a partner, I'm single still, you know I want to have children, I don't have children. And people and it's not that they don't think, it's just, it's not top of mind for them. And even just a few weeks ago, I had my niece who's 2, we were at my sister's place, and at the moment I have a bit of a fat tummy. So she pokes at my tummy and says, ask me if they've got a baby in there.
God.
And it's really hard. And you're like, no, I've just got a bit of a fat tummy, you know, and you know that she doesn't mean anything by it because she's 2. How could she?
Yeah, no, she's not conditioned to anything. She's just calling out what it is. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but it's really hard. And I think that's one of the hardest things about you running this business is you never know really when it's going to happen. I remember being on stage in London a few years ago, and it was a Virgin, pitch competition, and I got really, really over emotional and was nearly crying on stage. And I didn't really know why. I think it was probably partly to do with the environment, you know, a bit of pressure, but also just talking about Hoopsy and just one of those things. And I think that's the hard thing when you're running a business that's very personal to you and to other people. It does get very emotional. And I think it's challenging because most people in the business world are men, and they don't understand and they don't get it. And so it can be difficult at times.
Yeah. And the empathy that comes through, because you would encounter, no doubt, a lot of men there's a lot of men in the in the healthcare, in the IVF space, and I've encountered with my own experience, some that just have no bedside manner whatsoever. And I just look back now and go, wow, like really, like is that you can't behave that way? You just can't. There's a better way
Yeah.
to behave.
I don't think it's even just men. Like the first doctor I had was a woman when I was doing my IVF in Sydney, and she phoned me up an hour after I found out my embryo didn't make it past day 3, and basically said, "So do you want to go again?" And I
I
was
know.
like, I don't know.
It's unbelievable, isn't it? You just because I often think about like you're almost just spraying money up against a wall as well. Like there's not just the emotional as a single
Yeah.
woman. It's a lot of it. It's not just an emotional investment. It's a financial investment. Do you know what triggers me, Lara? Whenever I have to go and have an ultrasound, and I go in for the scan, and you just see this like this, I get really upset every
Oh,
time, and I had to have one a while ago, and I just got really upset, and the gynecologist like, are you okay? And I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. It's just that you just see because we're constantly like there's so much fantasy out there, and you see movies and you see all these happy endings and all this happiness.
yeah.
There's also the other side to it as well. But look what you're doing. Like what an incredible gift you are creating for the planet, for society, and it doesn't take away what's happened, to you. And like you say, it's always there. It's just how you learn to live with it. I don't know about you. The other part I think about a lot is that there's always been this expectation that you either go to college or you go to university, you meet someone, you get married, you have 2 children or you have 3 children. And yet you would be seeing this as much as I see it, is that there's a whole heap of single women. There's also now a lot of people choosing not to have children. And I just don't think the world has adjusted as much as where we're actually at when it comes to, the white picket fence family, if that makes sense. What's your view on
Yeah.
that?
I think you're right. I mean, you look at the movies and stuff, and now they're starting to put older women into movies, but they nearly always, now the trend has been that they hook up with a younger guy, but they're never just older, single, having a great time, are they?
No.
It just doesn't happen. So if you look at what the media is portraying people, it's challenging. It's hard, and especially when I was with my family last week. So I've got a sister and 2 brothers. They've all married. They've all got children. I'm the only person with nothing. And you feel like an odd one out, and it's hard.
I'm the same.
And
I know.
it's just really
And
hard. And
yeah, sorry, you go.
no, it's just, I think it's, other people don't see it because you're on the other side. You don't see it, and you're so used to having the children, having the other person, that you don't see how someone who doesn't have that can find this not just hard, full on craziness hard, but also the fact that you haven't that emotion that comes up because you feel like you're missing out. You feel like you haven't got what everyone else has. And it's just really, you feel like it's unfair. You feel like, why have they got that and I haven't? And it's difficult. It's really difficult.
Yeah, I know. I hear you, and I also sometimes think that I'm looked upon as she'll always be single. She's got the dog. She's she's happy with what she's doing, or she's so work focused. She's so business focused, and I do want to
Yeah.
bring it to that. Is quite often, you said that it was a good distraction for you to, to remove the emotional side or compartmentalize it, if you like.
Yeah.
It is for a point in time, and you can continue to throw yourself into it, but there comes a point where you have to really, really start to process it. Tell us a little bit about you've come up with the product, and then you're taking on a $63 billion market. Like, tell us a little bit how you started to get the traction in terms of what was that like for you, because you've got the big players there. Yeah, tell us a little bit about that.
It's been really challenging. I think when you run your own business, you're always going to think your product, well, you should always think your product's amazing. And you always think, well, of course people will buy it. Why wouldn't they? And then when you talk about it with people, everyone tells you it's amazing, which they do. And then you go out to retailers. And to be honest, in the UK, most of the big retailers don't care about sustainability. And I met with lots and lots of buyers, including the buyer for Boots 4 times. This was a couple of years ago. I said to her, if you look at the period care category, there's so many more sustainable, organic, natural products in that space. This is the way that healthcare is going. And I said, I'm sure you must use, she was in her 20s, late 20s. I said, I'm sure you must use, like period undies. And she was like, no. And I went, okay, I haven't got hope, because sustainability is not on your personal radar at all.
No,
And this is the challenge when you're dealing with buyers. If personally they don't think about it, they're not going to think about it. However many case studies you put in front of them, it's still not a priority for them. So that was really challenging. And so I did get buyers who believed in what I was doing, but it was just harder and it just took longer. And it made me realize that sustainability, yes, is part of our story, but what I've tried to do is now kind of expand it into that emotional support as well. So, for example, a few months ago, I launched a monthly snail mail letter service for women that are trying to conceive. We get a letter in the mail every month, and a mindful moment journaling prompt, positive affirmation, a recipe written by a nutritionist, and a gift. And I pick everything. And the idea is that, it supports you because it's hard. We know it's hard. So, and we know how lovely it is to have a friend send you a card out of nowhere and you're not expecting it. Doesn't matter what they say in it, but it's the thought that counts. And this is the same kind of thing.
Yes.
I've tried to make Hoopsy more like that. So one of the other things we do is we offer 24/7 helpline through WhatsApp. And so I've had women message me on Christmas Day about a test they've been taking, and no other company would respond to that. And okay, I can do it because it's just me at the moment. Once the volume gets bigger, then it's going to be a bit of a challenge, but we'll see.
Yeah,
but it's funny because I spoke to a guy yesterday, a potential investor, and he said, why do you need it 24/7? And I said, because you might take a pregnancy test on Christmas Day or 3 a.m. in the morning or after a trip to the nightclub, or, hello. It was just...
Yeah, totally. It happens. And especially if you're like, I know how crazy it becomes, doesn't it? You almost become crazy because you're just like, aren't I? Especially when you talk about like through an IVF journey, from the minute you get the transfer that you've got 2 weeks, essentially. You've got that window. And you're waiting. And if you go through it all, you're looking at, okay, this is what day it is today. And so, it's such an emotional journey. I just can't even begin to, and you would have your version of the emotional journey. Everyone's got a different version of it, and the ability to have a forum for people to share, because people say, don't do a test. Do you know what I mean?
I know. And that's part of the reason I started the snail mail being physical rather than online, is because because online people are so mean to each other. And even I've been in forums where I've made a comment about something, and I think it was like, oh, I've got this was really early on when I was going through my IVF, and so 2 people made really just off the cuff, just really horrible comments. I took it so personally because it's so personal to you. Plus you're on so many drugs that everything is blown out of all proportion. And I just thought, you just don't want that. It just does not help you at all. So having an offline support and also having a text channel where I'm not a therapist, but I'm not a doctor, but sometimes all people want is just to be heard. Then they can do that. And that's, yeah.
Are you noticing, Lara, that there is more loneliness as part of this as well? Because especially as you go through it, and I talk about loneliness, not just in this specific, I guess, space from an IVF perspective, but it feels like there's just more loneliness full stop in the world. And there's a lot more single women. You hit middle age. I'm middle age. I'm 49 in 2 weeks. And it's kind of an interesting time because you're evaluating everything and you're thinking, what's next? And I notice that you go a little bit more inward. You get caught up in your own thoughts at times. Like, are you noticing that with the forums that, like, well, sorry, I shouldn't say the forums. I said with what you're creating, it's creating a space of hope, whether you do fall pregnant or you don't. In terms of what we're talking about here, is there is still hope. There is still life after, if it does not
Yes,
happen the way you'd hoped it would happen. Do you know what I mean?
definitely. And I think you're right that, well, we know loneliness is on the rise. And I think it's really hard in the trying to conceive space, because lots of the times you don't want to tell people because
No.
you don't, like, even if you do get pregnant, then you're worried you're going to lose it. So you're not going to tell people. So until like you're much further along. So there's a lot of stuff that's just you. You might tell your partner, but they're not necessarily that supportive. You might tell your mum if she's around, but it depends on your mum. You might tell one friend, but it's not something you broadcast. Whereas when something happens, like you break your leg, everyone knows, everyone can see. And so you get all this help and support. But this is very different, and it's very hard, I think, if you haven't been through it, to understand it. And I know when I went through mine, I don't know about yours, B, but I actually lost two friends. One I'd been friends with for 10 years and was one of my closest friends when I was going through IVF, because she just didn't understand why I was doing it. And what was ironic is that she had her baby through IVF, but she had a partner, but she didn't understand why I was doing it as a single woman on my own.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And so I think it's just, there's so many layers to this thing. It's just absolutely mental if you start to peel everything back, and the support piece just isn't there for women. And
No.
I think it's being recognised now that not getting pregnant is like, as a trauma, the same as a miscarriage. It's this, and that's the same as someone dying, in, someone that
Well,
you
it's hidden
physically
grief.
dying. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's called grief.
It's and I had a therapist once say to me, it's almost like hidden grief. It's like, it's not grief someone can see because you never, the child was never birthed, for example.
Yeah.
But it's still, so people just automatically think, just get over it, or get on with it. And I don't mean that like everyone thinks that, but there is this whole, do you know what I'm saying? And I think that
Yeah,
I
definitely.
yeah, and I even think about women in business. I think we've got a long way to go with that, and I'd love your thoughts on this, because I remember when I was freezing my eggs, I was so petrified of letting anyone in the business know. So here I was, injecting every day, being an absolute crazy woman on all these hormones. My boobs, like, I'm quite small chested, and my boobs blew out. I was loving it. So I was wearing like the biggest, like, because I was just like, this is great. And I'm sure people were looking at me going, what is going on here? I actually can't believe what I did to keep it so hidden, and almost what pressure I put myself under to make sure that I was keeping up, and that that my career was not going to be compromised. And I think we've still got a long way to go, even with that. When you talk about men, and I'm not pulling it apart as such, because I think there's a lot of women out there that like have don't aren't empathetic also. But I think in business in general, there's a long way to go still with understanding the realities of what the journey is in terms of IVF.
Yeah, 100%. I just think, I mean, there's only now that people are starting to get, time off to go to IVF appointments even. Before that, you had to use it as sick leave or whatever. And I think, especially for people in the US, it's even worse, because you've got all of these horrendous abortion things going on, and you're worried about getting pregnant, and, there's just so many more implications there. I just think it's a really challenging time, and it's hard as well, because everyone takes it differently. Some people are going to be very upset or emotional, and other people won't be as emotional. But just because you're not as emotional doesn't mean you don't need the support.
Yeah.
So it's hard.
Yeah, it is. So in terms of Hoopsy then, so you start off with this paper pregnancy test. It feels like to me you're building a real movement now, though, like a real like community beyond just the pregnancy test. Is that the intention as you continue to build and scale the business? Like, what are you seeing as the next phase of Hoopsy?
I think the more I think about it, it's kind of something I've been doing, not subconsciously, but not intentionally, if you know what I mean, in terms of the support and the emotional stuff around the product. And now I've really decided that that's in the last probably 6 or so months, really want to lean into that because it is such a huge, important part of the journey and people are not being supported in that way. And if big companies just, they don't think about it and they don't really, it doesn't cross their mind. Often the people that are working in these companies haven't been through the journey, so they don't know what it's like. So I see that we've got our pregnancy test. The next one we're doing is ovulation. And then we're looking at other ways we can support women across this kind of stage of life. And then what I want to do is I want to be able to license the product to other industries. So like environmental and food testing, veterinary testing, and then potentially other medical devices, so that there's no way, realistically, I can't do all those tests. It's just too much money and time. So if we can license it, we can make a really big impact in terms of plastic while we focus on the bit that I want to, which is the fertility, women's health space.
I love it. It's such a great story. Like, who would have thought? Here you are looking at, plastics and then starting this, creating this paper testing product. And then here you are now building this community that you can provide the care, the comfort, the support that is so required, because you're right, there is so many different forums out there. It's how do you ensure that it's personable and it's not just an online forum that anyone can go on and make a comment about. It's quite an incredible story. Are you still there? I feel like you've frozen, Lara.
I'm still here. Yep. I'm still here.
Oh, you just come back. Yeah. Sorry, that's good. What do you think are the biggest challenges then as a woman in business right now for yourself? Like in terms of, you've started as a product and you're building it out now to a community, to a movement. What do you see as the biggest challenges as a female founder right now?
Well, one of the things we need is investment. And I think that's really challenging as a female founder. It's interesting. 2% of VC money goes into female founders, and then into women's health, only 2% of VC money goes. So you put those two numbers together, you've got a teeny weeny percentage. And I think that's one really big challenge, is that people just don't see it as important enough what we're doing. I'm finding particularly, it's like everyone loves it, but they think someone else will do it. I don't necessarily want to do something that's sustainable. So that's one of the big challenges. I think often as well, it's moving. Sometimes it's harder to move forward. I feel like we can get to a certain level in terms of we get in front of people and get seen and everything, but then I feel like there's unconscious bias that we don't necessarily see, and that's the hard bits to overcome when you're talking to, whether it's to buyers or to investors or whoever it is. It's that unconscious bias of, I've even had some guys tell me, oh, I could do a better job than you, and they don't even know the business, and you're just like, seriously? Where why? It's just crazy.
Yeah.
I don't think there's many women that would go up to someone that they hardly know and say, I could do a better job than you.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of things around that. And I think sometimes it can be really hard to stay focused on what you're trying to do and trying to see through all of that kind of that rubbish that comes in the way and just keep going. And I think one of the challenges is finding the people that get you and really trying to hang out with those people and make that your kind of your network, because then that will help support you. Like there's an amazing guy in the US who runs a beauty company, and they do hair ties and clips and stuff. And he is a massive supporter of female founders. He really believes that women should rule the world. And he does a lot of stuff with his business, a lot of stuff on LinkedIn. And we need more people like that, because those are the people that are pushing you forward and, introducing you to investors and commenting and saying, you need to enter this grant, you need to do this, So really helping you. And I think that's the difference. Men have kind of always had that kind of, their buddies look out for each other. Whereas for women, because there's not as many of them, it's harder to get that, I guess, that spread across such a wide area to be able to find these referral type things or these opportunities. And I think we need more people kind of looking out for opportunities for women. And also, I don't know if you've heard this stat, B, but like if you have a company that's have got a female founder, it returns 78 cents on the dollar.
Yeah.
A male founder, 38 cents.
Yeah, I've heard this stat, and it's incredible, isn't it? And this is the other thing that blows my mind is the fact that the 2% stat and the female founders and fundraising. It really does blow my mind, and we need to change it. And I often question myself, is it because that we're seen as too emotional? What is it? Is it because it's almost like a bit of a boys' club, or it's always been done this way? So now it needs people like the guy. I'd love to get him on my pod, by the way. I've got some people that I think I might even, I could introduce you to from a female VC perspective also. We do need to support more women, because you need the female and the male energy. I'm not suggesting it's one or the other. I think you need both. Do you know what I mean? Like we all have female and male energy in ourselves. We need more. I think, especially in this world we're in right now, more intuition, more empathy, just more. I just think we just bring something different to the table. And I think also from a lived experience perspective, like especially in women's health and help women's tech, all of that sort of thing. I just think we've got to shake it up. So I love that you are staying the course and on the mission. What do you do on the hard days? Like, what do you do when you're just like, I'm in a real, I guess, slump today? How do you handle your days?
I swim, so go in the ocean. So I was living in Portland in Maine last year, and the ocean, I'm not joking, got down to 0 degrees Celsius. I literally had to walk through like a slushy, and there was icebergs, not very big, but like this big, floating in the ocean. And I'd go in, no wetsuit, just neoprene gloves and hands and feet. And that kind of thing, I never want to go in. I wouldn't say I'm that, but I know I feel much better afterwards. And so whether it's doing that kind of really crazy cold plunging, or whether it's just going to the pool and swimming in an outdoor pool, that's what keeps me sane. And I think the other thing I find is, I know for me, the outdoors is really important. So like, I don't like living in a big city. Like, I like to live somewhere where like I can go to the beach, where you've got that open sky and you've got that kind of opportunity to go out and be outside and feel like you're outside, as opposed to feel like you're in a city. So for me, I've been around structuring my life to do that. And also, I think it's also about giving yourself permission. Like, I know if I'm really tired, if I watch an episode of some trashy Netflix show, I feel more energized. And so sometimes I would just do that in the middle of the day.
Yeah, totally. But
what does it matter? I mean,
no, it doesn't. I know. Yeah, I agree. I think it's just giving ourselves some grace, right? And also, I think I don't know about you. I'm a very private person, and I don't just go and blah to everybody. I might come across that I do when it comes to personal stuff. Like I said, it's taken me a while to be able to share my IVF journey, because I think you're also processing it. I also think, though, it is time to be able to say, I'm having just a really shit day, and it just is what it is today, and I don't have to explain myself to anyone. I am just working through, this today, and I'm putting one step in front of the other, and that's it. And I think that we've got, as women, even men, like anybody, like when you're having one of those moments, because I'm writing an article at the moment, and it's around what happens when your identity is stripped away from you. And I think that society in general, there's so much identity that we were meant to have or is attached to us. And there's some identities we don't get to choose. And so then it's like, what happens when it is all stripped away? And what does that look like? So I just love that you are, through all your grief, you are building an incredible business in Hoopsy, and what you're doing for the planet, for society, but also for the community and all these people. That I wish I had something like this when I was going through my own IVF journey, because it's absolutely required, and just that ability to the snail mail and just the personal touches and understanding it is beautiful, Lara.
Thank you.
No, thank you.
Yeah. The other thing I was going to say is that, so I was doing an accelerator in the US for the last 12 months, and there was a lady that ran the accelerator, Elena. And whenever I was feeling really, I'd just go, I need a hug. And she'd give me a hug. And then it got to the point where she just gave me a hug every day when she got there and every day when she left. And it was so lovely. And I think finding people like that is amazing if you can do it. Especially because when you're single, I mean, you know this, you've got dogs, but I don't have any pets. You don't have any physical touch. So
great.
I think it's really important to, and actually a few years ago, I went through the stage where I decided I was going to become a hugger. This was before I did IVF. It was my New Year's resolution. I'm going to hug everyone when I see them and when I leave. I didn't last very long. I only lasted about 3 months. It turns out I'm not really, I like hugging people, but I'm not, you know how some people are just like these crazy huggers. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. It's like, it could be a little bit like, whoa.
Yeah.
Goodness, I talk about a small world. Elena, I'm pretty sure I've had Elena on my podcast in terms of she's got an accelerator program. I had her on my podcast last year. She's gorgeous. Brown hair?
Okay. Yeah. Blondie brown.
Blondie brown.
Elena Brondello.
No, that's not her. Different one.
Okay.
But
Well,
she was
obviously
gorgeous.
Elena's great people. Yeah. Great people called Elena.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, Lara, what a story. I feel like I've met almost like a kindred spirit, someone that, like I said, you feel so, it is about putting our arms around each other and just being a little bit more empathetic and just asking, are you okay? Like, I think it's just even that, even if you're not, like, you know what I mean? Like, I think if anything in business, in life and as a leader, it's just, you never know what's going on behind closed doors is the one thing I would say. And I've always said that. And so I think that's where as a society, we need to be better at it and, and bring on more of those female founders into play.
I think as well, it comes to I've realized, like when I was in the US, that I suddenly felt like I had found myself and found like I was kind of being my real authentic self. I know we talk a lot in society about authenticity and being the real self. And I don't think I had really found that until I spent this time in the US, because people gave me the support to be able to do that. And I think being able to, that's how you can actually ask people, are you okay? Because you're not worried what they're going to think. And whatever they say, you're like, okay, great. And I think but you've got to be comfortable with yourself. And that's like such a hard thing to work out and such a hard thing to do, but it's so important. And I think it reflects across every part of your life. And I'd say that's, if people are thinking, well, how do I do that? I don't really know, but
that's my whole thing. I don't know either, and I feel like I'm still on the journey of, like, that's what I was saying about my identity and who are you when it's completely stripped away from you, and there is no self-help way to get there. It's a journey you have to go on your own.
I think it's just time, and I think it's being with people that support you and are going to be there for you, whether you're really mean to them or whether you're really lovely to them, or, you vary between those things. I think you need to have that people to give you that space to be yourself, and then you'll find yourself. And that sounds really woo woo, but I really feel like that's what happened.
So true. I'm glad that you found, though, your connection to you. It's almost like it just feels peaceful. It's the only way I can explain it. You just feel like you've got some peace versus all this,
I think the hard thing is, I feel like once you found it, it's sometimes hard to hold on to it. It's then coming back and then being with family, all these different people. Then you're kind of like, oh, maybe I should be. Oh, and then you have to think, no, this is what I'm doing. This is my path, and this is where I want to be. And I've chosen this. And I think that's the thing. It's about choosing what you want rather than, and I think that's what we were talking about earlier with your IVF and like, oh, should I do this? Should I do that? And it's easy to get persuaded by others that, oh, this is definitely the best thing for you.
Yeah.
But really you need to work out for yourself what's the best thing. And that's really hard.
And I found some peace once I sent the email the other day. I just found a bit of peace. I just thought, I don't need to fight this battle. I don't need to go through this. Right. It just did. Yeah. I just think knowing, and there was no guilt. There was no like, what ifs. It was just a no. But like you say, it flares up, it pops up, and then you go through the wave,
Exactly. Yeah. And I don't think life is smooth sailing. I think it is. There's always going to be ups and downs and bumps in the road. And it's just learning the best way to deal with it.
Agree. And then coming right back to hope, like there's hope,
Mm.
there's hope. Well, there's always hope, isn't there? There's always,
Yeah.
like you say, there's always a new day. There's always another day. Lara, I'm so grateful for having you on the show. It's such a beautiful conversation, and I wish I could give you a massive hug right now. Like the fact that like I said, we
Aw.
both have green on. It's such a snap, isn't it? I love it. Like
I
I don't know. I can feel the energy coming through. Like it's such a beautiful conversation. Who would have thought? Thank you so much. Incredible, incredible story, incredible Jenny, and I have no doubt that you are changing so many people's lives with what you're creating in Hoopsy, and I hope that we continue having these conversations and making it more. What's the word I'm looking for? I don't know what word I'm looking for, but I just feel like sharing more around everything about the whole journey of life, and that it isn't, like you say, an easy road. And then so how do we all support one another when it doesn't happen the way you thought it would as well, or what was expected,
Yeah. I think that's the thing. It's dealing with these unexpected turns and twists and finding ways around them. And that's the challenging part of life, whether it's in business or personal life or health or anything. It's how do you deal with those challenges?
Exactly. So, Lara, how do we find out more about Hoopsy? If I'm a listener here who is going through my own IVF journey and I'm really wanting to get some support, be involved in the community, have the 24/7 WhatsApp, how do I find out more? How do I also get a hold of the pregnancy test? Is it available in Australia as well? Is it available in all countries?
We don't have the pregnancy test available at the moment. It's coming in September, so a couple of months, and then you'll be able to buy it online from our website. So hoopsy.com. The best thing, everything's on there. So we've got the contact stuff. My WhatsApp number is on the bottom of every website page. You can WhatsApp me anytime. It doesn't mean I will always reply at 3 a.m. Just like to say that. I will reply, just not necessarily at 3. Yeah, so or you can follow us on Instagram or TikTok. We're HoopsyCo on socials. Yeah, and we've been doing we've been trying to I read some really interesting things recently about if you're more relaxed when you conceive, your baby is actually healthier. I mean, so there's so much research that shows that it's really hard not to get stressed when you're trying to conceive, but we really need to try and do as much as we can to not be stressed or to reduce our stress down. So we're trying to do some more education around that. We've got a lot of resources on the website, like ways to relax, things that you might not have thought of. And they don't have to be hard, having a bubble bath, we're not saying overhaul your life. It's just ways that you can take some time out for you, which I think as women, often we don't feel that we can.
No.
So yeah, basically, if you go to the website, there's also, if you want to drop me an email, there's a contact form on there, which comes straight to me. And yeah, I'd love to hear from anyone. And I really do mean that. And I'd go on quite a lot of podcasts and I don't get very many emails. So I'd love it if people change that.
Yeah, I'm going to absolutely get on board, everybody. Get in contact with Lara. Like, absolutely. Like, it's not often you get somebody, a founder, who is building the movement that you're building, and the ability to have personalized. It's not a bot. It's not AI talking to you. It's actually someone who's had lived experience. And I think that just goes a long way. So, Lara, on that note, I'm going to let you go and enjoy your day. And thank you so much for your time. What a beautiful conversation. And I'm sending you so much love and hugs. And yeah, thank you so much for coming on the show. And I know that Hoopsy is going to continue to make a huge difference in the world, not from just the planet and society perspective, but also to all these people that are going through their own adversity when it comes to IVF, or, a great result when it comes to IVF also. So thank you.
Thank you for having me, Dee. It's lovely chatting. I've really enjoyed it.
Yeah, me too. Thank you so much. And snap on the green again. I love it.
Don't worry. If you look on Instagram, nearly every photo I'm wearing green.
It's a great colour. Thank you so much, Lara. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.